everyone, welcome to Backstory Sessions. I'm your host Matt. We hope you enjoy this episode.
Hey everybody, it's Kat, and I want to welcome you to this episode of Backstory Sessions. I'm joined today by my co-host, Matt. Hey, Matt.
Hey Kat, hey everyone, how are you?
Well, we've made it to the end of Season 8.
That's true, we have. Yeah, this is the last episode of Season 8. I think...
They're sweet. I always feel that at the end of a season, don't you?
Yeah, kinda. I mean, but, you know, it's like, you know... I don't know. It's good because, like, it's nice to have a break.
To me, it's kind of like when you open that last Christmas present, you know? Like, you know, it's the last one. You know, then you get to go enjoy, you know, unless you got socks or, you know, like
yeah.
lunch. But, I don't know. It's when I look back over the season, I feel really proud of the work that we've done and the guests that we've had. I mean, we started off with David Bischoff and
Yes, Rock Camp.
Rock Camp, you know. So we definitely, you know, we had the first 2 episodes of that, and then we had a lot of retro, you know, like with the Waltons, we have Michael Learned. We had Mary Ellen, you know, that ended our season 7.
Right.
So we kind of continued that. And then we had Nellie Olson, you know, like Allison Arngren.
Yeah, they were really awesome episodes.
Yeah, so, you know, we just had a lot. And then we had our Valentines.
Yep, CW and Monica and Jonathan and Corey.
Yeah, it's always really special to, you know, to have that episode of love. And so we just had a really good season, I feel like.
Yep.
And it's ending very strong again with, you know, female country music.
Yeah, we had some, you know, good growth this season, and, you know, so far this year. I guess we started this when? Did we get it middle of January or something? The season?
Yeah, very near the beginning of January, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it was like the second week or something.
Yeah.
Yep, it's been, you know, been pretty good. We've, I think we might have hit all 50 states this season.
Yes, I believe we did, in several countries.
Several added countries, I think, were, you know, gaining a following in Zimbabwe or something.
Yeah, and, you know, we've had, well, in one of my plays, we had an actor from Zimbabwe, so I feel like, you know,
oh, yes, that's true. Who was that again?
Gareth, he's, you know, he's probably, like, spreading the word. Thank you, Gareth, if you are doing that.
Oh, that's right. He was in Gorilla Girl, I believe, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, he was. So, you know, I just, our guest today, you know, she is married to also a country music star.
Right, T.G. Shepherd.
So I'd be curious to see, you know, I can't wait to ask her, like, what's it like to work with your spouse?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, should be interesting.
Yeah, and then also, she somehow is connected, like, got to become friends with Barry Gibb and Olivia Newton John. So
yes, one of your favorites, Olivia.
I know. I also loved the Bee Gees, you know, back in the day.
Oh, right. Yeah. Well, who didn't like Staying Alive, right?
Yes. So, well, you know, because it came out about the time of Grease and, you know, disco and like all that was like big music. The Bee Gees were like, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah, they were superstars for sure.
Yes. So I am just another thing I'm wanting to know from her is, like how do you get to meet those Australians that uh, so successful? And I, loved Olivia Newton John. I think the whole world loved her.
Yeah, yeah.
So, Kelly too has her own really interesting. Like there's so many things about her. She's written a book. She writes songs. She does all kinds of work for causes, breast cancer awareness. So I just can't wait to get into her backstory and hear like, what is the story?
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be interesting. She's a writer as well, so yeah, it would be cool to talk to her about those things and see where all that came from, you know.
And, it's another season that we've got to spend together.
Yep, another one in the books.
Another one in the books. And, I feel like we've told a lot of good stories behind the stories. And that was our goal. So,
Well, you make it seem like this might be the last one.
well, it's like that Christmas and then,
Yeah, but I mean, there's next season to look forward to, or whatever's next,
yeah.
Like after Christmas, there's always what? New Year's and
New Year's,
yeah.
Valentine's.
Are there any holidays in January? No.
Well, New Year's.
Oh, aside from that, yeah.
Yes, Martin Luther King Day.
Yeah, it's true.
So, yeah, we don't want to forget that. And there's probably some more. President's Day is in February, I believe.
Well, I mean, like those aren't gift-giving holidays, though.
Well, I mean, you could give your president something, but
That's true, yeah.
more or less like Washington and Lincoln. So,
Yeah, well, you could give Washingtons and Lincolns.
That's true. So, if I remember it, I will give you some of those here.
All right, you heard it here first. Cat's giving me money on President's
You
Day.
always go back and play like you said you were going to give me.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. But I'm going to try to adopt your mental positivity of, not being too sad that this is the ending of season 8 and, looking forward to what's next.
Yeah, we, as always, we have to thank the listeners because they're the ones who, help us keep this going. They listen and give us feedback, and I think this season it's been generally pretty good.
Yeah, they've recommended us to, a lot of their friends, and you can see the growth. So, it was their 25,000 year, like this season, and now it's almost 30. And,
yep.
It's, so we've worked hard, and the guests have been phenomenal. The listeners are great. So all in all, I think we're pretty lucky, and definitely very lucky and honored to have Kelly Lang as our closing guest of season 8.
All right, well, let's talk to Kelly and see what's happening with her.
Kelly Lang, I want to welcome you to Backstory Sessions. We are so excited to have you as our guest today.
Oh, thank you for having me. What a thrill.
Well, it's really amazing to me that you have an autobiography. Now the autobiography is going to be an audiobook. And then also you have a song all by the same title of I'm Not Going Anywhere. So what inspired that title?
Well, many years ago, I'm going to say probably 18 years ago, maybe a little longer, I was witnessing a friend of mine taking care of her terminally ill husband. And he had a lot of nurses around him. A lot of people were taking care of him. But I recognized that the only time he seemed calm and comforted was when his wife would say, "Honey, I'm not leaving you. I'm right here. I'm not going anywhere." And then he would calm down. And I thought, wow, wish you could bottle that, and give people that feeling of comfort. And I thought, well, the best thing I knew how to do was to write a song about it. So I wrote a song called "I'm Not Going Anywhere." And strangely enough, a few months later, I had been diagnosed with breast cancer. And the man that I was dating at the time, whom I married, is T.G. Shepherd, the country singer. And we were just dating, and I kept feeling like, honey, it's time for you to move on. We're not engaged. We're not committed. Let's just call it a day. And I'm just bald and ugly. I probably am going to die at this point. And he says, absolutely not. I love you. I'm not going anywhere. And I'm like, oh, wow. It just kind of hit me like a boulder. I had written that, and it just came back to comfort me. And, it had some success. Crystal Gale cut it. It ended up in a Burt Reynolds movie, but then it just kind of went away. So 16 years later, I got an email from Ascension Hospitals here in the United States that wanted to use it as their national commercial for their campaign. And it hit right when the pandemic hit and everybody was home listening to the TV, and that song, that commercial played constantly. And it was just, it's a feeling of comfort for those having to leave their loved ones in nursing homes and hospitals. And it was just a rough time for the world. So I believe that song just resonated with a lot of people that probably would never have even known the song other than that commercial. So as the pandemic progressed, I was cleaning out my garage and ran into a bunch of notes that I had taken during my breast cancer diagnosis. And a friend encouraged me to use those notes to put them into a book form and help people with. And at the time, it was intimidating, but I thought it would be, if I could just help one person. I wished I had somebody like myself to talk with or have insight from, whom has made it past X amount of time, X amount of years, after that diagnosis. And so I just treated it from that perspective, and just wrote very, very factual from my perspective. And some of it's brutal to go through again. But the better part is that I'm this far out and I can see the sunshine now and hopefully be a ray of hope for somebody.
Yeah, so I can just imagine like the time markers you might count down, like after you're first diagnosed, and as you were saying that you told TG that you probably were going to die so early on. What time were you thinking, if I can just make it to what?
If I could just get through the first year, and then if I could get through the 5 years, and then if I could get through 10 years, so it's like it gets further out as you go. And I was telling a friend of mine who had cancer, she was just scared of every headache, every lump, every bruise, and I said, you know what? Go to the doctor. Keep going to the doctor. But you're going to connect enough good doctor visits together that one big one, is going to be farther apart. And I said, just keep on top of your health. But the connection of the good ones started overwhelming me compared to the bad ones. So it was just something for me it's kind of like a mental game with me to connect another good visit with. And then I'd go get an ice cream cone to celebrate. So it was just, you learn to celebrate the small things in life because they're all connected to a big thing.
Did you expect to hear that you had a cancer diagnosis? I mean, were you prepared for that?
Well, honestly, yes, I was. I was 36 years old. I had children, 9 and 13 years old. I was single. And I was watching the Oprah Winfrey Show one day, and a young girl was 26 years old begging people to do their self-exams. And I didn't want to do that. I thought, that's ridiculous. Me being 36, I thought, yeah, I've never done one before. Okay, nothing else to do. So I found 2 knots under my arm that day. And I went to my regular doctor, and I said, what are these? And she goes, oh, you're too young. I said, there's a girl on TV that said she was 26. And she goes, okay, fine. I see something there, but we'll keep a look on it. It's nothing big deal. So my instincts, my gut instinct told me something was not right. We know ourselves. Doctors don't necessarily know us internally, so
Right.
I use a lot of that common sense and intuition in my book to entice people to listen to their voice and listen to their body telling them things. I knew something wasn't right. So about 8 months later, I felt a jolt of pain in that area, and I insisted that my doctor get me a diagnostic mammogram, and that didn't show anything. So I asked for an ultrasound, and that didn't show anything. But I knew something wasn't right. So I asked the lady, the technician, if she could just push it in a little bit further, and there it was. And
Wow.
I'm sure it offended her, but it was my life we're talking about, And at that point, Kat, it had been 8 months longer, and it had already spread to my lymph nodes, and I had to go through chemo and radiation, and it was horrible. But if I had just been more aggressive in the beginning, which I'm hoping to encourage people to be their own health advocates now, I would have. And I also talk about the things I learned. I didn't know you could replace a doctor midstream. I just thought you just go along with whatever the doctor says, and I learned not to. I learned that if that doctor doesn't meet your emotional needs or your bedside manner desire, find another doctor. There's plenty out there to get second opinions from. It was very important for me to do that.
Well, I hope if the listeners hear nothing else, they hear what you just said. I think that is so important. And, had you not spoken up and been an advocate for yourself, your cancer probably would not have been diagnosed till much longer.
Oh, I wouldn't be here today. No, as a matter of fact, one of the doctors that I teased that I fired her, but I just chose another doctor is really what I did. I said to her when I got to my 40th birthday, which was 3.5 years after my diagnosis, I said, I invited you to my party. I wish, it was a staying alive 40th birthday party, disco themed. I said, I wish you could have come to my party. I didn't know I would make it to 40. And she said, oh, I knew I could get you to 40. It's after that I don't really have much confidence in.
Oh my God.
You're fired. I just didn't want to surround myself with anybody with negativity. Not that I was trying to be Pollyanna, but you want to be around people that are uplifting and at least have your best interest at heart. And she was trying to prepare me for the worst, but I didn't want to focus on the worst. So I let that doctor go and went to another situation where it was much more pleasant for me to heal in.
Well, I'm certainly glad now that you're 18 years out.
Yeah, and I must say,
what parties you want.
Right. I must say, I was very honored to have met Olivia Newton John at the time I was probably 6 years out, and she was a tremendous inspiration to me on how to live, even though. And she wrote the foreword to my book, as a matter of fact. And, she lived many, many years longer than what they expected her to live. And I think a lot of it's because of her natural way she handled things and her positive attitude. And she was just a lovely inspiration to me, and I hope to be that to others.
So you ended up becoming friends with her. She wrote the foreword, and you have a duet with her that's coming out, I believe, May the 5th.
Yes, so, I do.
Tell us how that happened.
Well, she and I were really fast friends. I met her through Barry Gibb. I'm sure you're familiar with the Bee Gees.
Yes.
And she and I are very close friends, and we were all at an event one night in Miami for diabetes, and she was there, and we just hit it off. And I think, when you have a breast cancer, sisterhood arrives, in between two people that have gone through that. So we just kind of connected really quickly, and she was a beautiful soul. Anything you think good about her, quadruple it. She was amazing, great friend, and so she liked my music. She always loved my, anything I record, she would ask for a copy of it, and then she'd give me her critique of it, and it was quite amazing to hear her critique my original songs. It's so funny. But she loved to play my music during her dinners that she had at her house. So she said, "Are you going to be recording any more albums?" And I said, "Yeah." She says, "What songs are you planning on doing?" And I'm like, I don't know. I said, "Why don't you come in and do a duet with me?" And she says, "Okay, what song are we doing?" I'm like, "Oh." I didn't take her, I didn't think she would be serious, but she was that kind of friend. And I had recorded my part of How Can You Mend a Broken Heart here in Nashville. And I met her out in Vegas. She flew in a day early where she was doing her residency out there from California to record with me that night. And the beautiful thing is we've got some really sweet footage of us in the studio together that has never been seen before, and some just video and photos of us through the years. We had a very long friendship, and I'm anxious to share that with the fans and be able to release that when the album comes out May 5th.
And what is having all of those, the photos and now the song recorded together, I'm sure that's so much more special even to have that memory to share with everyone.
It's really special to me, but it's bittersweet. It's hard for me to listen to it. And the thing that people will never get a chance to see of her, she and I really didn't talk music that much. We talked girlfriend stuff and facials and hair and nails and, everything like that. How to organize, how to cook, and girlfriend stuff. So I've got probably 120, 130 videos of she and I back and forth on that app Marco Polo. She's teaching me how to do things as we go. So I will forever have her video in my opportunity to hear her and see her talking to me. And those are just priceless. Nobody will ever see those, but I know they're there. And, I hear her in my head all the time. And I hope to be, maybe a continued torch for her kindness and her ability to help people, because it sure did rub off.
Well, she certainly, has been an amazing influence for many people in a lot of ways. So I'm so glad that, that you can reinforce that really was her.
Because she was better than anybody I've ever known. She was just the epitome of kind. She was very firm, though. If she didn't like something you did, she'd tell you, too. You knew right where you stood with her, which I thought was lovely,
Right. Well, when you were putting together the autobiography and the ideas, was there some kind of litmus test for, I'm going to tell this much, but I'm not going to cross the line? Or were you just completely transparent and everything was on the table?
About my personal story, everything was on the table. I felt like if I held anything back regarding my breast cancer journey, it would be not doing the reader who needs that information any service. I wanted to share the good, bad, and ugly about it, because there is some really sad, depressing parts to it. But the majority of the book is the how to get out of that dark place, and what I did to lighten it. And the people that I chose to be around, they were funny or they were uplifting. And the lessons I learned on how to accept people's help and not cut their blessing off by trying to help clean my house or, take care of my children at the time. It was just a lot of life lessons that I learned. But as far as like personal relationship things go, I'm not into trashing anybody. I went through a really tough divorce. I acknowledge that in the book and just slide by quickly. There's no sense in saying anything negative about anybody, and I wouldn't want them saying anything negative about me. So, and then, I mentioned a lot of artist friends that I have become very close to in the book, and you'll never read about the ones I'm not close to. How about that?
Okay. And so you've also written a lot of songs. When did you know that you were a singer, songwriter? Like, did this begin at an early age, or?
It really did. My dad was Conway Twitty's road manager from the time I was 1 year old up till he passed when I think I was 25 when Conway died. And I lived in Oklahoma, and I remember very, very distinctly writing my first song in Oklahoma in the bathtub, which is really weird because that's where I write most of my songs now, are in the pool. I love to be in water. It's just calming to me. And I wrote a song about Delta faucets to the tune of Delta Dawn. I won't be with singing it, but I could. But I was always fascinated with Conway's career and just kind of, really studied him and mimicked what he did, as far as how well he treated his fans. And he was always such a good advocate for how to be, there for the people and cutting great songs. And I just loved his songwriting, and I mimicked a lot of the ways that he wrote. And I grew into it. And then we were able to move to Nashville when I was very young. And I began singing on the Ralph Emery Morning Show. And then I began writing more. The older I got, I actually wrote the whole album, Walk Alone, with Lori Morgan for her album. And she's just recently cut 3 of my songs for her upcoming album. But I've written for people like Jerry Lee Lewis and George Jones and Ricky Skaggs and the Oak Ridge Boys in the past. But it's just, it comes and goes. It's like if I'm singing, I don't write. If I'm writing, I don't paint. If I don't paint, I'm performing. I have to be compartmentalized with what I do. Otherwise, I would be nuts. It would be difficult.
What's been the song that you've written that's, been the most and touched you in some way when you heard it recorded by someone else?
Well, believe it or not, it hasn't happened yet. I've got a song right now that I'm getting ready to put out in June, as a matter of fact, and I pitched it to Dolly Parton, and Dolly wrote me a beautiful handwritten letter about how much she loved the song, and when she's cutting this type of project again, she's going to circle back and cut it. So I just, in conversation with Lori Morgan, said, hey, you want to hear this new song I wrote? And she said, sure. I wasn't pitching it to Lori. And Lori heard it, and she cut it the next day. And so I haven't heard it yet. I seriously haven't heard it yet. But I'm planning on putting my version out June the 2nd. And be watching for it. It's called I Think It's Jesus.
Okay. Wow. That's a great backstory for it. And we haven't even heard it yet. It hasn't even been.
I haven't heard it yet. I'm anxious to hear her version.
Great. Well, Matt, what questions do you have before I have a couple more.
I'm just sitting here like in awe. I mean, it's a really interesting story.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. So, Kat, just continue.
Okay. Well, because I have my questions. So I'm curious, like, how did you meet Barry Gibb? I mean, yeah, I'm very curious. How did you connect with me?
Yeah, we had a terrible tornado come through here in my hometown and just wiped out so many homes, so many beautiful properties and businesses. And I just felt compelled to try to put together some type of a benefit concert. We've got a lot of artists that live here in this town. And it would be a crying shame for me not to try to help in some way if I could. So I put together a group of people like Lori Morgan, Ricky Skaggs, the Oak Ridge Boys, TG and I just a ton of artists. Gary, I can't think of his name right now. Gary Allen, Connie Smith, just tons of people. And I had heard that Barry Gibb had bought the Johnny Cash house, but I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know him, didn't know anybody that knew him. But I thought, wouldn't that be something if he would come, if he were in town and he could come and sing or at least say hi to his new community if he were right there. And my husband started laughing. He goes, you don't know him. What makes you think you could get through to him? I said, well, I met a girl on a plane who knows his secretary. I'm going to try to figure this out. So I found that email address. I wrote to it. And I said, here's who's going to be on the show. If you're going to be in town, would love to have you. 3 days later, his manager called me and said, not only will he be singing the Johnny Cash house for the first time, but he wants to sing with you, Kelly. And I said, I'm sorry, what? So I met him at the Johnny Cash house, sitting on June Carter's bed. playing a guitar with a black cowboy hat on, and me and my husband TG and my guitar player came in, and we became fast lifetime friends. And his wife was there, and we connected instantly. And my goodness, we've gone on vacations with them. We've gone to Australia with them and Disney World, and we're just super, super close to them. And through them, we meet a lot of really cool people, and Olivia was just one of them.
Aw, that is another amazing backstory. And it seems like that these backstories have led to really solid friendships for you, not just people that you've worked with, but, people that are really significant in your life story.
I look at it as just, it's one big extended family, and they're all connected some way. It's very strange how one would connect to the other. And through Olivia, I met Marie Osmond, and worked with Marie before, and it's a very small community, strangely enough.
So, Old Souls, you put out, that was the title of the first album, and that had, so tell us a little bit about the songs that were on that first.
Well, when I was growing up, my dad working for Conway, people assumed I was just a country fan, but my mom would play all of these classic rock songs around the house, either Gladys Knight or Elvis or Frankie Valli, and just a bunch of different types of music we're playing. And as I grew older, I began singing more country, but the older I became, the more I thought, I love these songs. You hear them in the grocery store still. I'd love to record them for my mom, just to have her have something to connect with. And she really appreciated it. And I just did it as a labor of love, really, for her, and something fun to do. And she was really appreciative of that. And then it did really well. So I was like, oh, there's tons more I could get to that I'd like to do a volume 2. So we just continued on with that. And, the funny thing is people forget that I am a writer since I've been recording so many cover tunes. But I'll have an EP of 6 or 7 of my songs that I've written coming out this summer. So don't forget that I write still. But it's been a real fun thing to go in the studio with these musicians, and they hear these songs, and they are so excited to be able to play these famous riffs like are on the Lionel Richie albums, and it's just fun. It's been a labor of love and fun for me to do, but I think I need to get back to writing more.
So what's it like singing and working with your husband?
Oh, it's a blast. The thing about it is a lot of people could not work with their spouse. That would get really hard to do probably, but he and I just have so much fun because he's already been there, done that, and there's zero competition. He just has a really good time, and I learn from him. I get to experience his things that he's already done in the past, and he gets to relive things through me that he's already done it. So it's just fun. We're choosing at this era in our life, trying to not to do anything that we're just not really happy about. And the lucky thing is the way the music industry is now that you're not really having to do what a label demands you to do, and you've got social media to be able to help promote things, and it's just taken it's more pleasurable, I should say, than it was in the past.
Kat, we're gonna have to let
yes.
Kelly go.
Yep.
Yeah,
so sorry.
Great story, and we'd love to have you back and talk more.
We would love that. Just call Scott anytime. I would love that.
All right. Thank you so much for being our guest.
Thank you, Kat. Thank you, Matt.
You're welcome. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
As always, if you have any questions, concerns, or comments, you can send those to Kat at iWritePlays@outlook.com, or you can write to me at backstorysessions@gmail.com or Matt at level11ventures.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.